Fantastic. We're on. And good evening. Welcome to Medical Mondays with Dr. O. It's so nice to see all the beautiful faces. And we're eager to have another exciting evening. But tonight, we have Dr. Sota Omogui, who, after his presentation, it becomes Medical Monday family because, it's just the way it goes. He's going to talk to us about sickle cell breakthrough, a paradigm shift. This is a problem, I would say, that is deep to our hearts because we all know that Nigeria has the highest number of people born with sickle cell disease. I think India is second, but Nigeria is first. And not much has been discovered to make life easy or easier for people suffering with sickle cell. So tonight is very, very important. I am Dr. Toyin Okpesomi, a family practitioner who also treats HIV and substance use disorder in Maryland. And I enjoy learning as well as imparting knowledge. So, without much ado, I'm going to yield the floor to Dr. Sota. I'm going to call him favorite, I'm going to call him Dr. Sota through the night. I yield the floor to you. The floor is now yours. So just take it.
Thank you, Dr. Toyin, and welcome everybody. And what I'll be going through in my presentation is my discovery of the first solution in 7,300 years to prevent and stop a sickle cell crisis in the golden half hour. I'm going to start with some video presentations first, and then after that, I'll go into the didactic lecture. So I'm going to share my screen and start. There'll be about 3 or 4 video presentations, including a couple of broadcasts from Arise News that was done just about a month ago. So hold on, please, while I share my screen.
Discovery and the Prevention and Treatment of Sickle Cell Anemia Crisis. By Sota Omogui, MD, Hawthorne, California, author, The Inflammation Theory of Pain. On July 4th, 2024, Dr. Sota Omogui, a recipient of the U.S. FDA Advisory Committee Service Award for service to the people of the United States of America, discovered and unveiled the first new intervention in 100 years of modern medicine and 1,000 years of human history that is 90% effective in preventing and aborting a sickle cell crisis within the golden half hour. The sickle cell mutation can be traced back to at least 7,300 years. The first recorded cases of sickle cell disease were in Egypt during the pre-dynastic period, about 3,200 BC. In the Persian Gulf during the Hellenistic period, 2,130 years before present, and in Ghana in 1670 AD. For thousands of years, sickle cell disease has been an inevitable sentence of recurrent, excruciating pain crisis, resulting in complications, severe disabilities, and death. But Dr. Sota Omoigui's discovery has come to offer a solution to a problem. That is 7,300 years old. As Hippocrates stated in 400 BC, "Let food be your medicine," Sota Omogui MD declares in 2024 AD that the guiding principles in the management of sickle cell disease shall be: let oxygen be your medicine, whether provided by inhalation or at the molecular level. Dr. Sota Omoigui's discovery, the science and the solution. History. Sickle cell disease was first described by Herrick in 1910. 1927, Hahn and Gillespie suggested that hypoxia or low oxygen caused the sickling of the red blood cell. 1930, Scriver and Waugh in Canada reported that the number of sickle cells in the blood may be varied by the change of the partial oxygen, O2 pressure. That this is a reversible reaction. Red blood cells need to squeeze through pores that are only 4 microns wide. When oxygen is removed, some of the cells sickle and get stuck. Once oxygen is reintroduced, the unsickle process occurs, and the cells now flow normally through the pores. Reversible and irreversible sickle cells. Reversible sickle cells, RSC, can become irreversible sickle cells, ISC, after repeated episodes of sickling with damage to the cell membrane. The reversible sickle cells can revert to their original flexible discoid shape when reoxygenated, but repeated sickling can damage the cell membrane and make it impossible for the cells to return to their normal shape, becoming irreversible sickle cells. Oxygen therapy in the golden half-hour onset of a crisis restores reversible sickle cells and prevents them from progressing to a critical mass of irreversible sickle cells, wherein the sickle cell crisis becomes established and intractable. Developing a medication to prevent and stop a sickle cell crisis within the golden half-hour has defeated the best medical scientists, the best and most resourced pharmaceutical companies, and the best researchers worldwide. The efficacy among Dr. Sota Omoigui's patients has been 90% for prevention and aborting a crisis in the golden half-hour. And when you stop the crisis, you prevent the severe pain, emergency care, hospitalization, and multi-organ damage. Should you miss the opportunity to abort the crisis in the golden half-hour, subsequent administration of oxygen in a hospital has no effect on the irreversible sickle cells. It just prevents any reversible sickle cells from progressing to irreversible cells. So it only helps to a limited extent in an established crisis. The irreversible sickle cells have to be removed by the body through the process of hemolysis, phagocytosis, or sequestration. It is also necessary to address other factors that may have initiated or are now aggravating the crisis, most common of which is infection, including malaria, pneumonia, etc. References for more information, consultation, or to arrange presentations, contact Dr. Sota Omogui by email at medicinechief@aol.com.
Okay, I'm going to go to the next video. Hold on.
Without the constant fear of crisis and pain. Imagine a world where sickle cell patients can live without the constant fear of crisis and pain. Dr. Sota Omoigui's pioneering research has made this a reality. The conventional approach and what hospitals around the world do currently is called the MAD paradigm. It focuses on treating patients in hospitals after they experience an irreversible sickle cell crisis. But this often leads to severe pain, cell damage, multi-organ failure, and in many cases, death. Dr. Sota Omogui has a different approach. His revolutionary at-home oxygen therapy champions preventive measures tackling crises before they begin.
So the solution here is to prevent the crisis so the patient does not even get to the hospital the cells do not even die.
In his research, within 30 minutes of the onset of a crisis, in what he calls the golden half hour, the sickling of the red blood cell is reversible by inhaling oxygen or reoxygenation.
The reason why modern medicine missed this solution was that by the time patients got to the hospital in a crisis, they were already in an irreversible sickle cell crisis. Their cells could no longer be restored by oxygen. So doctors thought oxygen did not work.
It's a shift from a reactive treatment approach of the last 100 years in modern medicine to a preventive approach. Patients and physicians are empowered with knowledge to predict and manage the disease. Some medical practitioners have adopted this new initiative in their clinics, citing the remarkable effectiveness of the approach in their patients.
If you're a scientist and you understand the rationale for the use of oxygen in the first 30 minutes of a sickle cell crisis, every last one of them recovered. Many of them without any other treatment, just oxygen, and they're better and they go.
I've not seen them back in my office anymore since they acquired the oxygen. They'll not be coming for hospital visit. I did administer them myself. They did it at home. Okay, it's a home administration. Okay, so they administered there, and they called me, and they are very happy about the whole situation. I've never had any results in management of patients, as much as what I've had with this, home oxygen therapy.
The procedure allows patients to manage their condition from the comforts of their own homes through the use of an oxygen concentrator or a cylinder. His research has shown a significant reduction in sickle cell crisis with a 90% effectiveness rate.
0% hospitalizations, and that right there alone was amazing, because it really is, it's just really, it's not okay, and it's painful and it's heartbreaking. And not only have we had less challenges, no challenges, because the oxygen concentrator works and I got a backup just in case, I feel more confident. Seeing her be able to go from 45 days of missed school to 15 days of missed school, and, seeing her be able to get back in there in school faster and not have to overcome such a big hurdle, I'm coming back after weeks or coming back after being in the hospital. Seeing her jump right back in there, a lot of pride. And as a mother, you can try to fix everything, and I can't fix that. So it's been heartbreaking to me to see that, and to see someone I love melt away from me.
Within 1 hour, 30 minutes of being on oxygen, the crisis went from a 7/10 pain to 1/10. So I was really shocked that, okay, what is this discovery? This is magic. I was not given any pain reliever, no fluid yet, just the oxygen. Since I got the oxygen concentrator, it really helped me to relieve stress. I have better quality sleep because I use them when I want to sleep. It has really helped me. I've not had crisis since then. It's been 4 months now. Yeah, I've not had crisis since then.
This groundbreaking discovery is set to revolutionize the treatment of sickle cell disease. By adopting this preventive measure, patients with sickle cell disease can experience improved outcomes, reduced hospitalizations, and an enhanced quality of life. Thuraya Farouk, Arise News.
I'm going to the next presentation. So hold on, please. You're welcome. You're welcome. And
great. So
all the viewers.
Well, joining us to discuss today's commemoration of the World Sickle Cell Day and the search for management as well as treatment is Dr. Sota Omogui of Pioneer Oxygen Therapy. He's joining us via Zoom from California. He's also the medical director of the LA Pain Clinic in Hawthorne, California, and has served as an advisor to the United States FDA Advisory Committee on Anesthetics and Life Support Devices. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us on the news tonight.
You're welcome. And
great. So,
all the viewers.
Thank you. I mean, try to tell us about your therapy in that report. We also had sickle cell warriors who have benefited from it. But as the pioneer, explain it to us. What exactly is this oxygen therapy shift? And how does home oxygen therapy changes outcome for patients?
Okay, I think the proper word is as the discoverer of this revolutionary discovery. Sickle cell, the recorded history of sickle cell goes back 7,300 years. And for 7,300 years, there has been no solution. And what I've come to do is to bring the first solution to prevent and stop a sickle cell crisis in the golden half hour. And this is all based on science. I'm a translational researcher. What I do is go into the existing literature, just like a jigsaw puzzle, take the different pieces, put them together, and build and essentially create a novel clinical application. So the key part, I did this in my theory of pain. Pain from when you have a cut in your finger to when you feel pain in your brain. Human beings have tried to explain that since mankind has been on Earth for 300,000 years. And there have been different theories from Plato in 400 BC to Descartes in 1644 to Melzack and Wald in 1965. And none of their theories withstood the test of time. So I came to explain that with my theory of inflammation and the inflammatory response in 2002. And I also predicted the inflammatory chemical that will be responsible for migraine. And 17 years later, the first drugs to treat migraine, blocking that chemical called CGRP, were approved by the FDA. So I applied the same technique to sickle cell. And what was just interesting was that the initial aspect of the crisis is reversible with reoxygenation. First of all, the history of sickle cell. Sickle cell was first identified in 1910 by Herrick. And then in 1927, Anand Gillespie suggested that hypoxia or a low oxygen environment caused the sickling of red blood cells. And 3 years later, Spriver and Wow in Canada reported that the number of sickle cells in the blood may be varied by the change of the partial oxygen pressure, and that this was a reversible reaction. And that was the whole key to the discovery, that the initial phase of sickling is reversible with reoxygenation. And then other researchers followed. In 1983, Frank and Chu stated that deoxygenated reversible sickle cells had the ability to get back to their normal shape upon reoxygenation.
Right.
Again, 1991, Robert Hebel said that the damage to the cell membrane was initially reversible with reoxygenation. So all these researchers had put this in the literature. Even in 2015, Melanie Gonick in MIT published a video, it's on YouTube, it's called In Predicting Behavior of Sickle Cells. And this was being used to analyze the development of anti-sickling drugs like anti-urea, like hydroxyurea.
Okay, Dr. Omoigui, if you can hear me, if I can come in here. Unfortunately, we don't have all day. I mean, this is an amazing breakthrough, definitely. But, I mean, tell us about this oxygenation. I mean, how is it different from the regular oxygen that we all breathe in? I mean, for a layperson like myself, wondering, oxygenation, what exactly does that mean? And how is this, I mean, number one, is it a treatment or a cure? And how is it different from gene therapy and, of course, bone marrow transplant?
Okay, first of all, as you were talking to me, you're breathing in oxygen, okay? And what is air? Air is made up of 21% oxygen, nitrogen of 78%, and 1% rare gases. That was a major discovery by itself. But when you're using an oxygen concentrator, which is a machine that is almost like a mini oxygen plant, it takes in air, removes nitrogen, produces oxygen. When you're using a nasal cannula at 1 liter per minute, instead of 21% oxygen, you are inhaling 24% oxygen. At 2% liters per minute, you are inhaling 28%. So just a little bit. And this oxygen is no different from the oxygen you get in the hospital. The only difference is that by the time the patients get to the hospital, the reversible sickling has progressed to irreversible sickling with cell damage, and the oxygen no longer works. And that is why sickle cell disease confounded modern medicine for more than 100 years, because doctors in the hospital said, my goodness, the oxygen is not working. But you had to go back to 100 years of science to understand that. In the initial 30 minutes, which we found based on our clinical experience over the last 20 years at the Elephant Clinic, it's reversible. So you provide oxygen by an oxygen cylinder, an oxygen concentrator, and you can stop the crisis. And we've had so many case reports since I announced my discovery on July 4, 2024. I stated, let oxygen be your medicine. So we have up to 100 patients now on oxygen cylinders, oxygen concentrators. You can go on our website, sicklecelldiscovery.com, and you can see all the testimonies. People are saying this is a miracle.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
You call the first reversible half hour golden half hour. But let me ask you, Nigeria has the largest sickle cell burden globally. Do you think this is something we can mainstream here? And I mean, what would be your call today as the country joins the world to observe this day?
Yes, I can tell you there was a study which showed that in 2016, the United States spent $811 million treating sickle cell painful crisis complications in the hospital. You can imagine dropping that by 90%. So the same thing, there's an economic impact here of changing the paradigm. So what I've come to do is to disrupt the paradigm from people waiting to get into a sickle cell crisis and going into the hospital and being there for days, getting blood transfusions, getting complications, acute chest syndrome, avascular necrosis, all the terrible complications of sickle cell that arise from the crisis, to preventing 90% of those crises. So there'll be, apart from the preventing pain and suffering, there's an economic impact to the patient, to the family, to the society, and to the nation. Always remember that the sickle cell crisis is not just a disease of the patient, it's a disease of the family. The mother doesn't go to the market, the father doesn't go to work, they are incurring medical bills, and all of this can just be reduced by 90%. So talking about this, I've been working with, and I can mention a few names, Professor Adenike Grange, retired Federal Minister of Health. He's been a big advocate of my discovery, and other doctors, some of them you saw on the video, Dr. Ngozi Onya, Dr. Ernest Onogu, Professor Kolade, University of Ilorin, Dr. Annette Akinchete, the Director of the Sickle Cell Foundation, Dr. Tunde Fakunle. And then recently, we've been joined by Honorable Tolu Sadiq, the National Assembly, who is trying to push legislation to essentially provide this oxygen. And the smallest oxygen cylinder is 100,000 naira. Oh, wow. A hospital card alone is 100,000 naira.
I mean, it sounds very, very, I mean, like, truly, it is a breakthrough and music to the ears, especially when you compare with gene therapy, bone marrow transplant that do come at a huge cost. Of course, 50 million Nigerians have sickle cell in this country. Thank you so much for your work. But very quickly, I want to ask, are there any side effects to this oxygen in the golden half? And is it every sickle cell carrier that can actually benefit from this treatment, or are there exemptions?
No, not a carrier, you mean a patient, somebody with the full sickle cell. No, actually, there was a study by Legono et al. Whereby they used oxygen for patients, children from 5 to 15 for 5 years, and they found no side effects. And this is what I say. I compare my discovery to the discovery of insulin for diabetes. In 1921, Banting and Best isolated insulin. Before the isolation, diabetes was a uniformly fatal disease, killing people at the age of 20 to 30. With insulin, it became a manageable disease. So with my discovery with home oxygen in the golden half hour, sickle cell is now a manageable disease. They don't need to be called warriors anymore. They are no different from diabetes. And I'll remind you, we don't cure high blood pressure, we manage it.
Right.
We don't cure diabetes, we manage it. So for the first time in history, we're going to be able to manage sickle cell. They're going to be able to live normal lives. All they need to do is whenever they don't feel well, sleep with oxygen. Now, I also want to mention a couple of points.
Yes, please.
Very quickly.
Very quickly.
Yeah, the most dangerous time for a crisis is during sleep. This is because we call that a phenomenon of nocturnal hypoventilation. Now, most people with a normal hemoglobin, sleep is restful for them. But in patients, everybody has some shallow breathing during sleep. But in patients with sickle cell, sleep is dangerous because the shallow breathing causes a low oxygen environment and brings them at risk of a crisis. So we advise that if there are any daytime stressors, and physical, environmental, physiological, intellectual, studying, for example, just sleep with oxygen.
Okay.
And you'll never wake up in a crisis. Another dangerous place is air travel.
Yes, because of the air pressure. Thank you so much, Dr. Sota Omogui, and we do thank you for the work you're doing, the discovery of the oxygen therapy. Your website, again, is sicklecell.discovery.com, I believe it is.
Correct.
People can go there to find. Great, can go there to find out more information. But we must thank you for being on Newsnight tonight. We do appreciate your time.
And then I'll go into the didactic part of the presentation. And this is the video done by MIT in 2015 for their research into anti-sickling drugs. And I will talk about it because some of this is just written here. Mentioning about vaso-occlusive crisis and no good ways to predict when a vaso-occlusive crisis will occur, which is not correct. And I'll go into all of that. So they developed a gas exchange device to analyze the behavior of sickle cells when in a low oxygen environment and when oxygen is introduced. And they showed how the cells respond to a low oxygen by getting polymerized, hard, stiff, essentially sickling, and getting stuck with the removal of oxygen. And then what happens when oxygen is reintroduced?
So the cells are moving very well here, going through all the tiny 4 micron wide apertures in the blood vessels. And the moment oxygen is removed, or not removed completely, the moment the oxygen gets into a low oxygen state, the cells begin to sickle. And you see they begin to obstruct the capillaries. But once oxygen is reintroduced, the cells are restored back to their normal discoid shape, and they begin to flow freely again. And so they developed this device for drug companies studying anti-sickling drugs like hydroxyurea. But they missed the whole clinical application here of just using oxygen to reoxygenate the cells and stop the crisis. So, and get back to the presentation. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I hope.
We can hear you. Your volume is out.
Okay, hold on, let me see.
Now we can hear you again.
You can hear me again? Okay.
Yes.
All right, I hope the videos were able to show okay.
Yes, the videos were excellent, and thank you for sharing those.
Thank you. And now I'm going to go into my slide presentation, and then I'm going to the lecture. So hold on, please. Okay, welcome to my didactic presentation of my discovery of the first solution in 7,300 years to prevent and stop a sickle cell crisis in the golden half hour. The sun has risen after 7,300 years of darkness. And as I stated in 2024, July 4th, the guiding principle here should be, in the management of sickle cell disease, let oxygen be your medicine. This is the first time in the history of medicine that a gas is being used to target the pathophysiologic basis of the disease, not just to treat the symptoms, but to target the physiological basis and change the trajectory of the disease. My discovery is bringing knowledge overlooked in 100 years of modern medicine. And what's the underlying pathology? The sickle hemoglobin has a low tolerance to hypoxia, a low oxygen environment. And in the presence of a low oxygen environment, the sickle hemoglobin undergoes polymerization, which is the medical term for sickling. And most important in this discovery is that the initial phase of the sickling is reversible with reoxygenation. It's just like
the cells are dying, and you give them CPR with oxygen. And if you give them CPR with oxygen, they get back to normal, resume their flow, and the symptoms abate completely. As long as there's nothing else like infection, malaria, hemolysis, we are able to abort the crisis right in the home environment. The patients do not need to go to the hospital. When I announced my discovery on July 4th, 2024, we had just 7 patients who were using home oxygen. And after announcing this discovery, we set up a WhatsApp platform called the Discovery WhatsApp platform. Isiwa, please drop the link to the WhatsApp platform.
She did already.
Oh, she did. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
We had to open a second platform because the first platform got to maximum capacity of 1,025 members. And the second platform is approaching 330 to 40 members right now. And now, in 1 year, we can see an efficacy of 95 to 99% of people stopping the crisis, the patients, the caregivers, the parents stopping the crisis. Most of them saying 0 hospitalizations in 4 to 8 months. This discovery has prevented in this small subset of patients, prevented more than 100 to 300 hospitalizations, prevented more than 100 blood transfusions. Pain, suffering, and organ damage has been prevented. And here is a flow chart showing how home oxygen prevents the cascade of a sickle cell crisis. You have tissue hypoxia, which can arise from many factors: exhaustion, fatigue, nocturnal hypoventilation, and that is one of the factors that was never appreciated by the patients, the physicians, the caregivers. And there's been history upon history in the newspapers, in articles of patients with sickle cell waking up from sleep with a crisis. And it was not understood why. And you will see some articles where some of the patients stated that they felt there was a demon that came to them at 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning with stabbing pain. These articles were in New York Times, they were in CNN. But the solution, the explanation was simple. It was nocturnal hypoventilation. They were going into a low oxygen environment by the shallow breathing of sleep. When we all go to sleep, we all experience shallow breathing. In a normal person, sleep is restful, but in a patient with sickle cell, sleep is the most dangerous time. And all they have to do is sleep with oxygen, use it as necessary. And those who have slept with oxygen, not one had a sickle cell crisis. And we tell patients, if you have a daytime stressor, exhaustion, fatigue, cold, air travel, altitude, excess heat, dehydration, put on the oxygen. If you're a student, you've studied for exam, put on your oxygen. Now, we have a lot of testimonies on the website, sicklecelldiscovery.com. Please go on the website, scroll down halfway, you will see the testimonies. And the testimonies are nothing short of amazing. People describe this as magic, describe it as amazing. They say, Dr. Sota, God bless you. There are so many God bless yous on those testimonies. It's just amazing. Because for the first time, they don't have to go to the hospital when their child is sick, when their child has a crisis, unless there are other factors. So what happens is that when there's reversible sickling, home reoxygenation, the green box here, stops it, restores the sickle cell to the normal discoid shape, and the crisis is prevented. Otherwise, The reversible sickling occurs, repeated sickling goes to cell damage and goes to cell death. And when the cells die, they obstruct the blood vessels. That's the time the patients are getting to the hospital. Oxygen at that point in time is not going to do anything anymore because the cells are already dead. So so that's why I call the current paradigm MAD, medicine after death of the cell. So what happens? Patients have to be on potent pain relievers. The body has to destroy the cells that are obstructing the blood vessels. And it destroys it by hemolysis, phagocytosis, or sequestration. And what's the consequence of that? Severe anemia. And with severe anemia, what happens? We are giving blood transfusions. So it's a whole cascade in the hospital where, as physicians, we're like a cat chasing the tail. So obstruction, hemolysis, blood transfusions, severe pain. If you have proper pain control, you can stop it there. But unfortunately, a lot of hospitals in Nigeria are using pentazocine and tramadol, which does not stop the pain. It's not a method of management for patients with sickle cell crisis. Because what happens with inadequate pain control? You have chest splinting, you have more shallow breathing, you have more hypoxia, you have more sickling, you have acute chest syndrome, you have lung damage, and this can often result in death. So this is the cascade of which all of which can be prevented by home oxygenation. So I've discussed all of this about the reversible and irreversible sickling. We've seen the videos. And in here, I've gone through the mechanism 1910, sickle cell disease described by Herrick. 1927, Han and Gillespie suggested that hypoxia caused the sickling of red blood cells. And the key to the discovery is in 1930, almost 100 years ago, when Scriver and Wall in Canada reported that the number of sickle cells in the blood may be varied by the change of the partial oxygen pressure, and that this is a reversible reaction. Again, 53 years later, Frank and Chu in 1983 published that deoxygenated reversible sickle cells possess the ability to readopt their normal discoid shape upon reoxygenation. 8 years later, 1991, Robert Hebel stated that the cell membrane that is damaged can be reversed. The destabilization of the cell membrane can be reversed with reoxygenation. And in the video we showed, that was 2015, where the behavior of sickle cell was demonstrated by MIT. But nobody caught on to the fact that instead of just trying to look for a medicine, use the gas. And so the biggest pharmaceutical companies, the best researchers were all looking for a medication when the solution was out of the box. It was just the gas. And of course, they were stymied by the fact that the patients got into the hospitals and oxygen didn't work. And that's what essentially fooled all of them, that oxygen is not going to work, but it's a question of timing. And amazingly, in 1992, there was a clinical trial by Zepuski et al. In Toronto, where they studied the effect of oxygen therapy on the number of irreversibly sickled and reversibly sickled cell patients, sickle cells in patients with sickle cell anemia. And they found out that inhalation of 50% oxygen in patients who were not in a crisis produced a significant fall in reversible sickle cells and a lesser fall in irreversible sickle cells. But inhalation of this 50% oxygen in patients who were already in a crisis showed no effect on irreversible sickle cells. It showed a reduction in the reversible, but not in irreversible. And in a group of patients that served as a control who received air, no supplemental oxygen, there was no change in either the reversible or the irreversible sickle cells. So this is the whole essence of the discovery, that you must give the oxygen at home when the cells are still reversible. So again, reversible sickle cells become irreversible with cell membrane damage and cell death after repeated episodes of sickling. But they revert to their original flexible discoid shape when reoxygenated, which essentially means the crisis stops. The crisis is over. Once again, I advise everybody, please go on our website, sicklecelldiscovery.com, because it's just impossible for me to give you the extent of the testimonies of people who have been using home oxygen, mostly in Nigeria, a few in, but some in other continents, including the US and the UK, to see their testimonies of what has happened in terms of being able to manage this disease without hospitalization and stopping the crisis. Again, oxygen therapy, in 2024, I stipulated that oxygen therapy in the golden half hour, which is 30 minutes, that's from my clinical experience. Giving oxygen within the first 30 minutes of a crisis restores the reversible sickle cells and prevents them from progressing to a critical mass of irreversible sickle cells, wherein the sickle cell crisis becomes established and intractable. So if you can stop the crisis in these 30 minutes, you prevent the severe pain, hospitalization, and multi-organ damage. So again, like we talked about, the solution was missed because by the time they got to the hospitals, it was too late. Now, with the 7 patients we had before I announced my discovery, we're talking about reducing hospitalizations by 90%. With the 100 patients, since I announced my discovery in the last 1 year, this is like 95% minimum in terms of stopping a crisis, as long as there's no, and this is always a caveat, as long as there's no infection, malaria, pneumonia, and hemolysis. So the testimonials on the website show the dramatic responses to home oxygen therapy. So if you prevent the crisis, you prevent all these terrible complications, avascular necrosis, stroke, brain damage, priapism, kidney damage. The key to the disease is preventing or stopping the crisis. And like I stated before, diabetes was a uniformly fatal illness, with patients dying in their 20s and 30s until the isolation of insulin by Banting and Best in Canada in 1921. And that made diabetes a manageable illness. With sickle cell, my discovery of home oxygen in the golden half hour has made sickle cell a manageable illness. So we need to stop this current paradigm of waiting for patients to get into the hospital after they've been in an irreversible sickle cell crisis. This current paradigm, again, is mad. Medicine after cell death. We've gone through this current paradigm. So my discovery has come to create a paradigm shift from a reactive treatment approach of the last 100 years of modern medicine, wherein patients are treated in a hospital after going into an irreversible sickle cell crisis, experiencing severe pain and multi-organ damage and death, to a preventive, symptomatic, proactive approach where home oxygen restores reversible sickle cells to their normal discoid shape and stops a crisis in the golden half hour, changing and saving lives all over the world. And discovery has come to empower the patient and the family from being helpless, hopeless, and powerless bystanders when in crises are unpredictable, result in pain, suffering, and hospitalization, to being first responders, understanding the triggers for a crisis, preventing and stopping a crisis in the golden half hour, decentralizing power from the hospital to homes, preserving dignity, health, and hope for those long underserved by the current paradigm. Again, where the majority of crises occur during sleep, because of shallow breathing, nasal vascular congestion, reducing airflow in the supine position. In 2003, Hargrave et al. Concluded that low nighttime oxygen saturation was highly significantly associated with a higher rate of painful crises in childhood. And in 2024, Chang et al. Found 43% of sickle cell patients that they studied had sufficient nocturnal hypoxemia to warrant oxygen therapy. They concluded that oxygen therapy may decrease inflammation and oxidative damage in hypoxic individuals. So what are the aggravating factors of a low oxygen environment? It's made worse when there are triggers, increased anemia, pain. Pain is an aggravating factor, which goes to the importance of controlling pain when patients get to a hospital. Stress, fatigue, exertion, exhaustion, infection, increased sedation, alcohol ingestion, and altitude greater than 2,000 feet. And people will be surprised. Las Vegas is at 2,000 feet. You don't have to go all the way to Colorado to have for a patient to have a sickle cell crisis. In the absence of triggers, patients with sickle cell disease do not have to sleep with oxygen, but should they wake up in a crisis, they should immediately turn on their oxygen cylinder or the machine, the concentrator, and apply oxygen within the golden half hour to abort the crisis. Again, physical stress from physical activity, intellectual stress, preparing for exams, environmental stress, cold environments, all of these are triggers. Physiological stress during sleep, excess heat, dehydration, and the solution is to use oxygen. And you will see the testimonies on the website, sicklecelldiscovery.com, where one of the parents said, normally during exam period, from the classroom, from the exam place, if the patient is able to even complete the exam, is to the hospital for a crisis. For the first time, they have not had to go to the hospital because they have home oxygen. So, and what's the proof of concept also about this discovery? The disease burden of sickle cell anemia improved with the advent of medications like hydroxyurea and voxelotor. And what do these medications do? They target the availability of oxygen at the molecular level to the sickle hemoglobin. Once again, we are mentioning oxygen. Hydroxyurea increases hemoglobin F production in red blood cells and decreases sickling. And why hemoglobin F? Hemoglobin F evolved to potentiate the transfer of oxygen from a mother's blood to fetal tissues because the environment of the uterus is a hypoxic environment. And this goal was achieved by higher oxygen affinity of hemoglobin F compared with adult hemoglobin A. And the drug oxybrita, unfortunately, has been withdrawn from the market by Pfizer. But it was one of the first drugs, apart from hydroxyurea, to target providing oxygen at the molecular level because it increased the affinity of the sickle hemoglobin for oxygen, thereby inhibiting sickling, reducing the amount of hemolysis, and increasing hemoglobin levels. But what happened to oxybate? It could not stop a crisis, and that's why the drug was withdrawn. There is no medication out there that can stop a crisis. Only home oxygen can stop a crisis. Now, oxybate was a great medication taken orally, 500 milligrams, 3 tablets once daily. It was able to raise hemoglobin level of a patient with sickle cell anemia by 2 to 3 grams per liter, about 6 to 9%, within just a few days, and in some cases, could restore the hemoglobin close to normal levels, almost as fast as a blood transfusion, but without the possible complications. But the dose Pfizer brought out was too high. And because what happens is that if you raise the hemoglobin too high, you begin to have issues of viscosity, which essentially predisposes the patient to a crisis. Now let's look at hydroxyurea. It's a current standard therapy for sickle cell disease. A myelosuppressive agent raises the level of hemoglobin F and hemoglobin. It reduces the frequency of painful episodes, but unlike home oxygen therapy, does not directly reverse a sickle cell crisis. Studies show that it usually decreases the rate of painful episodes by 50%. Home oxygen therapy is almost double the hydroxyurea. We are 95% or even higher. And of course, you have side effects of hydroxyurea, neutropenia, bone marrow suppression, elevation of hepatic enzymes, anorexia, nausea, vomiting, and infertility. Home oxygen does not have any of those side effects. So our goal, since I announced my discovery, is to make home oxygen a standard therapy for sickle cell disease, whereby reoxygenation in the golden half-hour restores reversible sickle cells to their normal discoid shape. So we have a Google form that we're giving to patients, caregivers who are using home oxygen in Nigeria to complete. Isua, please drop it in the chat if you've not. And you are all welcome to use it. And they just complete it on their cell phone. And because we are looking for more people to do prospective studies, because the more studies we have, the more documentation, the more we can make it a standard therapy for sickle cell disease. Now, in Nigeria, people are buying their home oxygen. Those who can afford concentrators are buying concentrators, which are about $500 to $600 for the lowest ones with quality. There are a lot of cheap Chinese concentrators that are not medical grade and that should never be used. And those who cannot afford concentrators are buying oxygen cylinders. You can get oxygen cylinder with the cylinder and the regulator about $150, almost about 200,000 naira. In the United States, insurance companies are not going to cover a concentrator. So please don't have your patients trying to get insurance to cover it. Those who can buy it and who want to save themselves the grief of hospitalization, the pain and suffering, the oxygen, the organ damage, we have recommended concentrators, recommended distributors. We have all their websites on our website, sicklecelldiscovery.com. They can order it directly from anywhere they want as long as it meets the specifications that I specify. And then let me just mention a negative proof of concept here. Novartis had a $665 million drug, Adagvir, a humanized monoclonal antibody against P-selectin, which inhibits the adhesion of sickle cell erythrocytes and leukocytes to the endothelium. It was approved by the FDA in November 2019 for reduction in frequency of vaso-occlusive crisis. However, what happened? In May 2023, the European Medicine Agency revoked Novartis' approval after concluding that the drug did not outperform placebo. Specifically, patients on Adagio had more crises than patients in the placebo. And on January 10, 2024, the UK regulatory agency also revoked the authorization for Adagio. Now, Adagio is still on life support here in the United States, but it's overdue to be withdrawn. And how did Novartis miss this? They missed it because they were targeting downstream inflammatory cascade after the sickle hemoglobin was already irreversibly sickled. And I could have told them that, not to waste their money, because they were not looking at the basic pathophysiology. If you prevent the red blood cell from being polymerized and going into an irreversible sickle cell crisis in the first place, you don't need to be going downstream to the inflammatory cascade. So now I'm going to talk about air travel. It's a hidden danger for sickle cell patients. And this is a danger that has been overlooked for the last 100 years, since commercial airline flights, probably less than 100 years. Patients with sickle cell disease have been known to experience complications, bone pain, avascular necrosis, phrenic infection. In some cases, prolonged crisis resulting in death, sometimes death in the aircraft. And why? Because it was not understood that the aircraft is pressurized to 8,000 feet. But patients with sickle cell, their saturations drop as low as 77%. This desaturation begins within 10 minutes of the aircraft taking off. We have lost some of our brightest and our best PhD doctors, physicians who traveled on airline flights and did not understand the danger. And this can be easily ameliorated. They just need to require supplemental oxygen in the aircraft. I've tried to reach the Federal Minister of Aviation, Honorable Festus Keyamo, about getting the Nigerian aviation to mandate international airlines coming to Nigeria to provide compressed medical oxygen to patients with sickle cell. Now, the European airlines, British Airways and Air France do that, but the US airlines do not do that. They require patients to bring oxygen concentrators, and those ones approved for flight can go $2,500 to $3,000 to $5,000 with all the batteries. So that is a campaign we're still trying to do. So now let's go to the patient now has an irreversible crisis, is in the hospital. Time is of essence to abort the crisis, and what they need to do is to use strong injectable opioids. Too many of our hospitals in Nigeria are using pentazocine or tramadol that are ineffective. Pentazocine is not even approved in the United States. It's a saline analgesic with psychotomimetic effects. Only strong injectable opioids, morphine, petidine, hydromorphine, fentanyl, ketamine, combined with injectable NSAIDs, e.g. diclofenac or ketorolac, can be used to treat a sickle cell crisis. Otherwise, it's a recipe for progress to an acute chest syndrome, which has 25% mortality. So we've gone through all of this. This was our case presentation, just the 7 patients we had, and how the hospitalizations, the frequency of the crisis changed from once every 2 months to once every 6 months to 1 year. And the hospitalization from once every 3 to 6 months to once every 3 to 5 years. And what's the cause of a sickle cell crisis? In the United States, 2021 study by Holford showed $1.5 billion in lost wages and productivity. each year. $650,000 lost over the average working life of a person with sickle cell disease. In a 2019 study by Finger et al., they showed that in 2016, aggregate cost for inpatient stays for sickle cell disease totaled $811.4 million, with an average length of stay of 5 days. And in 2013, Lanscron et al. Showed average life expectancy in 2005 was 42 years for females and 38 years for males. The mortality rate for adults with sickle cell disease has increased by 1% every year over the last 20 years. It's only the mortality rate for children that has dropped. My discovery has come to change all of this. So again, this is just the number of sickle cell states in the United States. Now we have curative options for sickle cell disease. We have the gene therapy, Casgevy, Lyfgenia. They cost $2.2 million and $3.1 million per patient for a course of treatment that can take up to 1 year. But Bluebird Bio, the company behind Lyfgenia, can only do 100 patients in a year. With 100,000 patients in the United States, it will take them 1,000 years to get through all of these patients. So this patient is not this gene therapy is great, but it's not accessible even to patients in the United States, and much more to patients in developing countries. Now, we also have bone marrow transplants, but those are also extremely expensive, and you also have to have the right match for them. Home oxygen is immediately available and accessible to Nigeria, the global south, and all the countries in the world. Oxygen is the cheapest, most affordable treatment compared to any medication for a chronic illness. But however, the amount of poverty in Nigeria is extensive. Even with the cheapest home oxygen here, an oxygen cylinder, you're looking at $340 per patient per year in a country where the average annual family income is less than $1,200. Meanwhile, in 2021, 515,000 babies were born with sickle cell disease globally. So, for the first time, we have a solution, but we have to get that solution to those who are impoverished, who cannot afford it, no matter how cheap it is, they can't afford it. So we need to get government involved, we need to get charitable organizations involved, and even in a sickle cell discovery WhatsApp platform, and you're free to join because I share information there. We've donated money. Some of us, we've had some kind individuals donated money to purchase oxygen for many of the patients. But that's just a drop in the bucket. So we need, it has to be a whole of society approach. Now, we don't want just any concentrator. And by the way, on that website, sicklecelldiscovery.com, I show how oxygen concentrators work. There are several videos there. There are specifications that a concentrator must have. It must be a continuous flow. Pulse dose is not effective. It should be about 1.5 to 2 liters per minute, and it should have 90% plus or minus 3% purity across all flow rates. I tell patients avoid concentrators with low quality sieve beds that have decreased oxygen purity with higher flow rates. A sieve bed is what absorbs the nitrogen from the air, so you have oxygen. Now, we've tried to get concentrators with rechargeable batteries for those in Nigeria and the global south, but we're having a problem with those because those with rechargeable batteries are only at 1 liter per minute. So most of the more affordable concentrators are plugged in, they require electricity, so the patients may have to get oxygen cylinders as a backup if they don't have reliable oxygen supply. Again, these are oxygen cylinders. There's an example of a home oxygen concentrator. There's an Sickle Eclipse FAA approved for aircraft. Again, Legoro et al. In 2021 concluded after a 5-year study that long-term oxygen therapy was a safe and feasible treatment option for children age range 6 to 15 with sickle cell disease and chronic hypoxemia. Like I tell everybody, when you have high blood pressure, you take medications to lower your blood pressure. When you have diabetes, you take medication to lower your sugar. When you have oxygen, sickle cell disease actually should be called a low oxygen disease. It's a disease due to a low oxygen environment. So the name does not describe the pathophysiology. And when you have a low oxygen environment, you use oxygen to restore the low oxygen environment to a normal environment. Again, intervention with home inhalational oxygen can prevent and in the golden half hour abort a sickle cell crisis. It must be made available and accessible to the global population of 7.74 to 20 million patients with sickle cell disease and a sickle cell disease mortality burden of 376,000 in the year 2021. To conclude, as Hippocrates stated in 400 BC, let food be your medicine. I, Sota Omogui, declared in 2024 AD that the guiding principles in the management of sickle cell disease shall be, let oxygen be your medicine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sota. This is, land breaking. This is very, very important in our community. We've been Africans and the recipient of this sickle cell disease. Thank you so much. You said it. This was a no-brainer, but you were the brain who actually put it together and put the jigsaw puzzle together and now, brought this out to the limelight. And we have seen what he has done. I put in the chat box for people who are here for the first time, which I know there aren't many. You can raise your hand to ask questions or put it in the chat box. If you raise your hand, you get preference to ask your question. So, Dr. Mary Olodun, kindly unmute. You are the first.
Thank you very much. And let me see if I can lower my hand while I talk. Okay.
Don't worry, I got you.
Thank you. Okay, hold on. Let me come off of. Thank you. Oh, first of all, what an awesome presentation. So grateful. And thank you very much for that, Doctor. I'm gonna butcher it, so help me out.
Sota, Dr. Sota.
Okay, Dr. Sota. I can
Yes.
say Sota. That's what I was.
I know you can.
Well, first of all, let's just introduce myself to him. And I am Dr. Mary Olodun, a naturopathic doctor here in the low country of South Carolina, right outside of Hilton Head, a little town called Bluffton. My husband is Dr. Adam Remy Olodun, non-medical. He is a sickle cell trait. I'm sickle cell trait. And I really learned 2 years ago that our daughter's SS, right? So she has been having crises. And I was ignorant.
My
right?
niece?
Yeah, your niece. I just was ignorant to what to look for because we live a very, very healthy life. And so it didn't start presenting until she was, of course, much older, and she started to be very active with dance and all that. But the way I really learned is I learned because I'm now a contracted provider, and I'm hoping that you've heard of Cayenne Wellness Center over in Northern California. Have you heard of that center? Because they treat sickle cell behavior support, and they focus on behavior because of the stigma that sickle cell warriors have when they go into the ER. Are you familiar with them, Dr. Soto?
All of those things are outdated with this discovery.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very simple thing. Home
Oh,
oxygen.
Oh, no, no, no. I was wondering if you were just familiar with them, because I definitely want to make that connection if you're
No,
not. I would love to introduce you because you said you will still want to do more study. So I would love to introduce you to Dr. Rowley, who runs her center, and it's been around for 25 years. So she has quite a few sickle cell people she see across the state of California. So I will do that. We could take care of that offline. But have you heard of?
I'll do that behind.
Yes, thank you, dear heart. And so the next thing is, have you heard of EBU, encapsulation, blood oxygenation, and ozonation? And if so, what's your opinion on that? That is something that is of later now innovation.
no, none of those things are going to work.
Okay.
The pathology is very clear. It's 100 years of literature. The pathology is restoring the reversible sickle cells back to normal. And there's only one thing that can do that. It's an oxygen gas. Within a few seconds, the gas begins to work. And after you talk, Dr. O, I'd like you to call on 2 other doctors on this platform, because they've been part of my discovery now for the last almost 1 year, Dr. Onogu and Dr. Fakunle. Onogu is a hematologist, and he's the one who was on the Arise TV news, and he will be able to talk to about the dramatic improvement in all of his patients with home oxygen.
Okay. A couple of other things, and then I will defer and I will yield the floor. And I guess you feel the same way about ultraviolet blood irradiation, which is what they call the invisible cure, not specifically to oxygenate, but to minimize the pathologies that sometimes trigger the crises. So one of the things that I'll just jump to my chase, right? One of the things that I've am also working with is clinical homeopathy. And I actually researched the only study I could find on homeopathy and sickle cell, which was actually done by an Indian doctor with over almost 1,000 patients. And I have emulated the same formula. He didn't put his exact formula, but I took what elements worked in that research, compounded it in London, and I put my daughter on it last year. And from last year to this year, she hasn't had a crisis. Now I'm starting to, share that formula with different people, but I would love to talk to you more about that discovery and what I'm doing so that, we may be able to further discuss how to, possibly do some studies with that. But I am using that formula right now.
You know what? And hey, more power to you, but nothing that is given orally that has to transit through the gastrointestinal tract can reverse sickle cell back to normal. You require a gas to do that, which is oxygen gas. Please go on the Sickle Cell Discovery platform and read the testimonies. They're absolutely amazing and dramatic. And when Dr. Onogu and Dr. Fakule talk, they can also give you their testimony. So we are not going into, and there's nothing oral. The big pharmas have tried oral. They've tried Adagvio. That was even an IV. They've tried Oxbrita. Nothing oral. You have to go to the pathophysiology of the disease. The pathophysiology of the disease is reversible sickling that progresses to irreversible sickling unless you reoxygenate in the golden half hour. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. I actually believe prevention is a big part of what I do anyway. So we don't want to, if they get to the crisis, I think you're absolutely um, definitely giving us exactly what we need to do when they get to that point.
No, no,
But
no, 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 no. We don't want them to get to that point. That's the whole
right.
the home oxygen is to prevent them from getting to the point of a crisis. Is to stop it within the first 30 minutes. That's
Okay. All right. Thank you, doctor.
yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah. So,
So
Doctor,
very much, much appreciated. Just a minute, just a second. I will get to Dr. Onogu and Dr. Fakunde in a minute. Dr. Ajagbe, you have your hand raised, sir. Kindly unmute. Thank you.
Wow, that was a long one and very informative. Going back to the basics of the pathophysiology was very helpful. I want to find out from you. I know your focus has been on sickle cell. Do you suppose that the oxygen therapy can be very helpful in thalassemia as well?
yes, as long as the process involves sickling, which is always initially reversible, yes, it will work in that.
Yeah, because I know of a child. I mean, very unusual for a Nigerian offspring to come up with thalassemia. The child is less than 8 years old. It's been going through all kinds of crises, and they've been loading him with a lot of narcotic. I mean, and for me, that's troublesome. I mean, for a very small, I mean, a very young child, being exposed to that because of the crisis, the pain that he goes through usually was through the roof. So I'm thinking while you are presenting that, wow, I hope this therapy can truly work for other similar, conditions. May not be identical, but at least can the oxygen actually reverse the thalassemia crisis? But now you're saying possibly yes. I
Yes,
hope it.
one of the, if you read the testimonies, one of the recurring themes is that they did not need their pain medications anymore.
Yeah. So that's the reason that I'm very excited about this to pass on to the parents of that child. Because every time the child goes into crisis, I get to know about it. And I'm trying to see how can this young boy not be dependent on very strong narcotics to relieve pain.
The solution is here, Dr. Agagbe.
Okay, that's fantastic. What I might do is, anyway, I'll take care of that
Thank
offline.
you very much,
Thank you
Dr.
so
Ajagbe.
much.
Thank you. Dr. Nelson Aluya, my presido, kindly unmute.
Yes, thank you so much. I just started work, so maybe my
That's why you're
camera.
not showing your camera.
I know, right? Well, thank you,
There you
Dr.
go.
Soda.
Okay.
Dr. Soda, I know well. We haven't really talked, but I'm on this and other forums that we are. And I appreciate, the very extensive work that you've done in this space and the fact that your work is basically free, right? Because everything is free. And
Correct.
your work is free and not like
Not
other people who sorry?
not only is it free, but I've actually paid for oxygen for some people.
I know, right? So that is like creating the internet or Google and making it available for everybody to use, which is quite commendable and truly appreciate that. But at the same time, as a healthcare provider and somebody who's done work extensively in sickle cell as well, I actually had a HESA grant that ran a sickle cell clinic and did some clinical research at Rutgers University here in Newark, New Jersey. It's been my huge interest for a long time. But I want to, you know, probably, say a few things, a few suggestions, and then hopefully in the future, some of the things that may happen so that things will be a whole lot. Because with what you're doing, you put in so much effort trying to convince people, telling them oxygen is the key and all that. And sometimes even those in the healthcare field are not the ones even buying it, and it's almost like a uphill battle. So, because the concept of sickle cell, as you know, not to go very technical, is a very hydrophobic, valine that replaces, glutamic acid in position 6 and all the chromosomes and all those, stuff that you know. And because of that, um, sickling takes place. Spindle fibers that form within the cells that push the wall of the red blood cell that makes it become rigid so that it bends it and it's not pliable, as it should be. So that's why they attach to each other and block it. Now, in that process, there's where I'm coming from. There are particles that are released that eat up nitric oxide. They bind and eat up nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a very potent vasodilator and that's needed for our tissues. So when they do that, it further reduces the amount of oxygen that's available. However, knowing that oxygen is critical for this, but I also want to, us to remember that I know you talked about the golden hour or something that you talked about. Half an hour, yes, which are very critical. Now, we have to educate our mothers or our fathers or parents, or even those in the healthcare field. What is the golden hour and the golden 30 minutes? What does that mean? That's one. Two, how much oxygen do you need to give when you're giving that oxygen? Because oxygen can be very toxic as well. And for what age? Do you give, sickle cell crisis begin at a 6 months or the average that you see? Do you give a 1 month old or a 6 months old a 4-year-old or 18-year-old the same amount of oxygen? And for how long do you give it for? And is it meant for everybody? Because as you know, once you've had repeated recurrent infarcts that take place, the tissues itself, the blood vessels themselves are denatured, they become damaged. So they don't deliver the same amount of oxygen that a young child who is 4, 5 compared to an 18, 19-year-old. That's the reason why you have what they call the sickle cell habitus. You see somebody walk the street, you know that person is sickle cell just by the way they look. So how much oxygen do you give and how do you grade that? So those are the
Can I
thoughts
answer your
that
question?
I'm coming, yes, and I'm sure you will. And in that, and then sickle cell is alone. And one of the crises that you talked about is infective crisis. There are other crises that happen in sickle cell. There are anaplastic crisis, which is due to infection, right? There are sequestration crisis, which you have blood pulling up to the spleen. There are other crises as well, so one of the crises, vasoacute crisis, which you just basically talked about, which is the pain crisis. But there are other crises. So in saying what to say, probably you may go on to explain those ones later to know that, hey, if someone is having an aplastic crisis, would oxygen work? Because at that place, it's no longer just the pain and the sickling anymore. If you're having sequestration crisis, pulling of whatever, if you're having acute chest syndrome, when you need more oxygen, you need to be careful to know that, hey, this is just beyond the giving 2 liters of oxygen at home. This person actually does need other stuff. Dehydration can be the cause of a crisis. You understand? So if you give oxygen to a child or person who's dehydrated, it most likely will not work. So these are the things that we need to take very cognizant for. So as we speak, we'll be able to advise our mothers, our parents, or everybody else how well to apply and when and for who. Because like I always say, everything is not for everybody. You can eat an egg and you're fine. I eat an egg, I end up in ICU. Does that mean eggs are bad? No.
You know,
It's just that
I'm
eggs are
not able
bad
to
for me.
answer your question because you're
No,
going
no,
on and on.
no, no.
Dr. Sota, please be patient. It's still going.
To
I'm
find
about
out
to,
what is going
so
Dr.
I'm about
Sota,
to,
Dr.
I'm
Sota,
about to
the
hang up.
forum
I'm
is
about
to
to close.
educate. Let him
Right.
conclude. Then you would have the floor. You are the one going to have the floor for every single one.
Okay.
Please let him
I'm
conclude.
trying to keep track of
So
his
I'm about to
questions.
close.
Then
What I'm
make
saying,
notes,
I'm
please.
closing.
Thank you.
I'm closing by saying this. I'm closing by saying this. That everything is not you're fine. I end up in the ICU. Does that mean eggs are bad? No, it's just bad for me. You understand? And that makes the case. Thank you.
You're breaking up, Dr. Aluya, and we can't hear you anymore. Okay.
I'm done.
Now,
I said I'm done. Thank you.
are you done? Okay, thank you. Dr. Sota, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aluya. Yeah, I've interacted with you on the different platforms. Well, you mentioned so many things. I'm just going to address a few. First of all, yes, this is addressing a vaso-occlusive crisis. And what I always state is that if the oxygen does not stop the crisis after it's been applied within the golden half hour, and they're still having a crisis, they should proceed to the hospital because there are other factors that are causing the crisis that oxygen cannot address, including infection, hemolysis, sequestration crisis, and aplastic crisis. So patients need to proceed to the hospital. But remember that vaso-occlusive crisis is the most prevalent crisis. It's about 95% of the crisis. And what oxygen can do is to stop this crisis and prevent the hospitalizations from this crisis. And yes, we will talk about oxygen toxicity. We are talking about low flow oxygen here. There's no oxygen toxicity. I don't know if you were present you were around in my presentation when I talked about Ligono et al. They gave oxygen for 5 years to children, 5 to 15 years, and concluded that it was safe. There were no side effects. Low flow oxygen in nasal cannula. The oxygen you're breathing right now is 21%. In nasal cannula is 24%, 1 liter per minute. And at 2 liters per minute is 28%. There is no toxicity from when you're trying to correct a hypoxic low oxygen environment. So the issue of toxicity doesn't arise. And if you go on the platform, you will see the testimonies of people using oxygen for their children. And yet, in a little child, 6 months old, you use a lower dose of oxygen, almost like 0.5 liters per minute. We have pediatricians who have been using this for their patients. So this has been going on for more than 1 year. So the doses can be adjusted, and how long they use the oxygen. Read the testimonies and see how different people have utilized the oxygen to prevent and stop a crisis. Some people use it for a couple of hours. Some people use it to sleep through the night. It's all in the testimonies. Those are all practical experiences from people who have successfully used home oxygen. Okay, now I can't remember any of his other issues. If you can remember, if I'm not addressing any question, please bring it up.
No,
Dr. Aluya.
what I was saying,
Dr.
yeah,
Aluya,
the
you're not
different
on
amount
camera
of
right now.
oxygen.
You're good. You're good. Go ahead.
No, yeah,
Go ahead.
the different amount of oxygen for different sets of people, and different age groups. Is it the same amount? I know it's, they talk about low dose, but low dose for somebody may not be low dose for somebody else.
So if I may interject, Dr. Aluya, I think your concern is people at home knowing exactly what to do, how much oxygen to use, and how to decipher if this is, the right treatment. to use. I think in Dr. Sota's presentation, in one of the, I don't know if it was one of the interviews or slides, it said, the oxygen will abort crisis if it's not malaria or, and he mentioned some other things. So is it the treatment that you're concerned about? How people would know what is the right thing to do, what dose and stuff like that? Is that your concern?
Yeah, that's the concern. As you know, when you give somebody even Tylenol, they have a headache, they'll take a Tylenol now. Then the next minute they can take another Tylenol or take double doses. I truly agree this is very plausible. However, people, people advert to misusing or abusing certain things. You understand? And that can result in other problems or complications that may not be foreseen now, especially if they're not truly educated. So the big thing here is education, 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 especially for mothers who are probably in the rural areas who don't have the typical screening done in communities, in rural areas where, babies are still born with sickle cell every day as compared to other areas as well. So it's just that. I mean, now in the future, what I was trying to suggest in the future, hopefully, Dr. Sota, with some very brilliant AI juniors, will come up with a capsule or something, or rescue that you can put underneath the skin. When somebody is in crisis, you press it, it delivers a certain amount, specific amount of oxygen that goes into the blood that will release crisis immediately. Hopefully that will come up in the future. We're looking forward to that, Dr. Soto.
Well, unfortunately,
Thank you.
I think you must have missed a lot of the presentation.
No, he was here. He was actually here.
Okay,
He got the presentation.
Because I repeatedly stated that there's no capsule oral medication that can act with the onset that a gas acts. Oxygen gas within a few seconds is already reoxygenating the sickle cells. So we don't need to be looking for a capsule, looking for an oral medication. The solution is already here. There's been a 5-year study using oxygen throughout the night. There was no toxicity, there was no side effect. Patients can titrate the oxygen to the symptoms. It's a low flow nasal cannula oxygen. So it's much ado about nothing. I recommend that you go on the website and read the testimonies. I'm also going to call on
Sir, let me run this.
Okay, all right.
We have people who raise their hands.
Okay, go ahead.
Doctors are going to affirm what you said.
All right.
Usually we don't do so long presentations so we can bring people in, but we
Okay.
wanted you to talk. So we want to know, these are the people who need you, not the doctors who are treating. We already know what you do, and you've told us they can affirm what you said. We believe it.
Thank you.
So Dr. T. Osawe, kindly unmute. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. First of all, I'm Dr. Tai Osawe. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a doctor of nursing practice and a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. I would like to applaud Dr. Sota for this great discovery of his. During his presentation, he mentioned that sickle cell disease is a family disease. And I can relate to that because I grew up in a family where I had more than 5 siblings that had a sickle cell. Many of them have died. I have one surviving. I also have cousins. Initially, in a polygamous home, it was, witchcraft and all that, until my dad found out. He was told that he had a AS, his genotype was AS, and my stepmother's own. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I would like you, if you don't mind, expatiate more on the relationship between priapism and sickle cell disease. Because recently, my brother was experiencing priapism. So if you don't mind, Dr. Sota, thank you. That's my question.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Osawe. And yes, you are one of the members of one of our discovery platforms. So you've seen all the testimonies from the people using home oxygen. Priapism, again, is sickling in the penile arteries. And interestingly, when does priapism most occur? It wakes the patients up from sleep. It's still the same low oxygen environment. So home oxygen should be used to prevent it. Because when the cells become irreversible, then the priapism is intractable, and there needs to be a surgical intervention to release the blood engorgement of the penis. So by using home oxygen will address it. It's the same basic pathophysiology. A low oxygen environment causes sickling, and if you provide oxygen, you can stop the crisis in the golden half hour. The solution is here. There's nothing else to be looking for. The pathophysiology, 100 years of medical research have pointed to this solution and to this discovery. So please,
thank you so much.
Home oxygen.
Thank you. She said something about her father and her stepmother having been both ASAS. So we know that with each pregnancy, they have a 1 in 4 chance that that baby will have sickle cell disease. We have a question for you in the chat box, Dr. Sota. This is a very important one. It says, thank you for your insightful presentation, sir, and congratulations on the groundbreaking oxygen discovery. The question is regarding genotype compatibility. Is there a solution available for an AC and AS couple that can prevent them from having a child with the SC genotype? That's one. And does SC behave the same as SS?
Well, it behaves close enough, and the best solution is not to get married. And then the next solution is to do amniocentesis. If your fate allows you to terminate the pregnancy and you want to find out what baby you have. But I always tell people, if you fall in love with one person, there are 1,000 other people you can fall in love with. So that's the best prevention. You can see that this whole discovery is on prevention, preventing the crisis from getting to the point where the people need to get to the hospital.
Thank you so much. And maybe even IVF, because now they can actually select they can test the embryos to see which one will be SC or SS and not implant those. So technology is moving in the right direction. Dr. Onogu, please be ready. I'm going to call you after Mr. Felix Bright. Mr. Bright, kindly unmute. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Sota, for this research, and good evening, everyone, once again. I'm calling from US. I'm just happy I was able to join this conversation. I'm a registered nurse. I work at George Washington University Hospital here in DC, US. I had my BSc nursing at OAU, Ife, and my research work was on genetic counseling. So, and genetic counseling, majorly on sickle cell trait and, counseling to the intended couples. So I think this really go with my research line. I have a few questions, but Dr. Aluya has actually asked them, and that was based on the toxicity. And I thank Dr. Susan because he has been able to do justice to that by letting us know that the low flow oxygen will not really cause any toxicity. And I know that this research work is more of preventive, which is the hallmark of medicine. At least every treatment, when you do the preventive, we have a high chance of of success. So and I think this is something we should all key into. But my question now is, sir, with your research, this oxygen, low flow oxygen, I think is more or less like a monotherapy. Are you actually saying, in fact, that this is all the patient needs, to prevent this vaso-occlusive? Because going by the pathology of sickle cell, we talk of we know hydration, goes a long way. The hydration causes a lot of crisis, because of the agglutination, viscosity and all that. So I just want to chip in that, is it possible, we have like a therapy that will combine oxygenation with low flow oxygen via the nasocannula with something that can provide some um, hydration for the patient? Would that give a more success, to this approach, to this oxygenation approach? That is one. Then number two, I believe we want to really target, the sub-Saharan African country, with
You know
this
what?
your
Can
research.
you hold 1 second? Dr. Sota, can you respond to that first? Because I think I don't want the same thing before to repeat. Do you want to respond to that first?
Okay, all right.
And
Thank
then
you.
we
Thank you,
we can
Doctor.
ask the
Thank you,
second.
Doctor. Oh,
Yeah.
well, whatever triggers, if the patient is dehydrated, they need to be addressed. But the final pathway to a crisis is reversible sickling that progresses to irreversible sickling. So it's a wide open field for anybody who wants to do studies, combining hydration, combine anything. But the most important thing is that you must have the home oxygen, because that's the final pathway for the crisis. And if we've been doing all this hydration and all of these interventions over the years, we would not have been having increased mortality of 1% every year for the last 20 years. The mortality rate of sickle cell will not be as high. People will not be dying in their 30s and 40s because we missed the most important thing, which is using oxygen to stop and prevent the reversible sickling from progressing to irreversible. So yes, so patients need to be hydrated, that's fine. But I must also caution this, that one of the complications they found about patients with sickle cell on admission in the hospital is because sometimes they end up with fluid overload because the doctors are busy giving IV fluids, giving blood, and fluid overload becomes confused with acute chest syndrome and has almost the same mortality rate. So we need to be very careful about this focus on hydration, because that's what gets patients in trouble in the hospital. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Felix, Mr. Bright, if you please unmute again and please make your question straightforward for us, please. We don't want to overwhelm Dr. Sota. Kindly unmute and ask your next question.
Okay. Another thing is, I think because I actually have cousins, two of them with this condition,
What's your
and I
question,
think
please? Your
yeah,
question,
yeah,
please.
yeah. My question, as the second thing I want to talk about is the safety, the hazard. Because according to you, Doctor O, you're talking about like the target is the end users, which are the parents and all that. So, and we're talking of on education. So, I believe we have a lot of work to do too, in respect to education, not necessarily safety issue, because we know issue with fire and oxygen. So I just want to encourage us, especially the authority here, Ministry of Health and all that, because I know a lot of people are from ministry and all that. So please let us just do a lot of education on safety hazard if you want to work with this approach. And lastly, please, federal government of Nigeria, please, you need to do a lot about electricity. Please, whatever we can do to make electricity available, because if we have electricity in that country, we are going to have a lot of success in almost every sphere of life. So please, you are here. We are advocating, please, for electricity. Let there be light in Nigeria. Thank you. God bless every one of us.
Okay, thank you.
Amen. God bless you. Let there be light.
Yeah, thank you
I'm sure
very much.
Dr. Sota agrees with you on that,
Oh,
and I agree too.
absolutely 100%.
So,
the issue with electricity, and it's a big problem, because without electricity, you cannot achieve anything in modern life. And so that's one advantage of an oxygen cylinder. It does not require electricity. It can work with or with, it does not need electricity to work. It uses the pressure of the gas. Now, the concentrator does require electricity, except it has a rechargeable battery. So those are the issues we're having. Now, of course, we must educate people in terms of oxygen, keeping it away from any flammable situations, not having any open flames. And yes, but before we get to the education of oxygen, we have to get the government to purchase the oxygen in the first place. So this is a whole of society approach. When the oxygen is purchased, it should come with education. And that's what we've tried to do in the Sickle Cell Discovery platform. So it's very important. It's just like your propane gas at home. You don't turn the gas on and leave it on, because then you're looking for trouble. So the same thing with oxygen. So that's why on the Sickle Cell Discovery WhatsApp platform, we always repeatedly tell people, take the proper precautions, whether it's a cylinder or it's a gas. But again, I would like everybody go and read the testimonials on the platform. It is hard for me to overstate the impact this has made on people and the way they are using it back home, here in the US, in the UK, in the Caribbean.
thank you. So, Miss Lisa Sonny, I'm going to call on you in a minute. Please hang in there. Dr. Onogu, kindly unmute. Dr. Onogu, trying to find you.
Is he still there?
Okay, Dr. Fakunle, are you there? I don't see Dr. Onogu and I don't see Dr. Fakunle. So while I'm looking for them, Miss Sonny, kindly unmute and look for our doctors.
Thank you. Dr. Sota, this conversation is very dear to me. And you mentioned the study that was done in 1910, the Harrick study. And I want you to know the patient was a Grenadian.
Oh, really?
The study was
wow.
Patient. Yes, Walter Clement Noel. You can read his story in the JAMA magazine. He was the patient that the study was done on and documented. First documented case of sickle cell was a Grenadian, and his name was Walter Clement Newell. We celebrated 100 years in 2010. And I am appealing to you, since the story began in Grenada, maybe you can do a podcast or go to Grenada and do a follow-up on this story, because that's something I've done a lot of work on in Grenada with the sickle cell story. So thank you for thank you for this, and I hope we can talk and do something in Grenada to commemorate what you are doing for this wonderful study. Thank you.
You are welcome, and feel free to join the Sickle Cell Discovery WhatsApp platform. We put a link in the chat, and yes, I'm happy to present anywhere. This is just one of the numerous presentations I have done, and I continue to try and share the knowledge of this discovery. And then when you get to the website, Sickle Cell Discovery, you can read the testimonies and see what how it has changed people's lives and how it has saved people's lives. There are children who start using the oxygen, and within 30 minutes, they are back playing. After 30 minutes of oxygen, the crisis is over, and they're back doing what they want to, doing what they love to do. So it's on the platform. It's in the website. Please check that. Join the platform. This discovery is just about a year old, and this is a problem 7,300 years old. So we've just started the journey to bring this discovery to the world. So I'm happy to bring it to Grenada. I'm happy to bring it to anywhere, but because that's what we need to do. Thank you. Is Dr. Onogu here? Are you back here? I see you here.
I wanted to add, was that Grenada gentleman, was it the dentist who came in from Grenada to
it's
the
a
US?
lady. Grenada, she's Miss Lisa Sonny.
Yes.
She actually leads prayers in the White House.
No, the patient.
Oh, the
was
patient.
a dentist.
Oh, yeah.
Walter Clement Newell was a dentist from Grenada.
Yes, thank you. I thought so.
Yes, thank you. All right.
Miss Lida, sorry, I thought he was asking about you. So I wanted to introduce you properly, that you bring us to the White House to go pray.
Yes, and Commissioner too. Multicultural Commissioner.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. That's how I should have actually introduced you. Thank you. And please join the WhatsApp group so that you can,
no problem,
foster a relationship with Dr. Sota and be able to get him to talk to the people in Grenada. Thank you. So, Miss Lisa Shingul Nkuku, kindly unmute. Kindly unmute. You have your hand raised. So, Dr. Sota, while she's trying to raise her hand, I think that might have been a mistake. There's a question in the chat box that, so for someone that lives in Nigeria, how do you have access to home oxygen? She says that she knows, or he knows, that here in the US, one can ask their primary care doctor, and if approved by insurance, they can get home oxygen. I don't think home oxygen is approved yet for sickle cell treatment. For certain respiratory conditions, yes, and pulmonologists would assess the person and figure out how much oxygen they need and all of that, even here in the US. But in Nigeria, how is that done, Dr. Sota?
Well, yeah, in Nigeria, what happens is that those who can afford it, and that's why we have the platform. There are like almost 1,340 members of both platforms right now. And that's where we guide people in terms of where to go, who are the distributors, where to go and purchase oxygen cylinders, where to purchase oxygen concentrators. So that's why we have the platform, depending on what part of the country they are. So they can be in different areas of the country. And so we're able to guide them in terms of all of that. So if you join the platform, ask your questions in the platform, we'll be able to give you the answers there.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello?
Dr. Izugu, kindly unmute. Dr. Izugu?
Yes,
Thank
just
you.
give me a second, please.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, Dr. Soto,
Yes.
I take my hat off for you.
Thank you.
Beautifully presented, not only from basic research, pathophysiology to the clinical aspect. And thank God you have gray hair. And the reason why I say that is that you have the strength to fight what is needed to bring this knowledge to forefront. Because you can speak with pure knowledge and pure example of what is proven. You know, what is going on is almost like what we do in heart attack. You know, we are time is muscle. So we acutely have to go in to open up the muscles to save life. It's the same thing like when you have naloxone at home, you give it to somebody to wake them up. Or even they have acute asthma attack, or even they have allergic reaction for those who have EpiPen. You know, the key is early intervention, even in sepsis. Okay? So it's early oxygen to break the cascade. That's what you're talking about here. And it is really for us to understand it and really be able to teach people about that early intervention. And it works because those of us who have done critical care knows the importance of early intervention to break a cascade. If you don't break the cascade, once it goes into secondary, tertiary, or whatever tertiary state, you can't come back out of it. Now,
Correct.
what we're praying is that you focus your study, a large-scale study, on the concept of early oxygen, not oxygen. Because people are going to come out and give you cock and bull stories that oxygen doesn't work because they didn't apply it early, they did not, and then you're going to say that big study will then quench the whole thing you have done. And so it's going to be capitalizing on early intervention. Early oxygen saves life for sickle cell. Now, what's also interesting about it is that you're going to be fighting many battles. Not only the farmers that really have produced so many medications, so many things that they really have to get money out of, and this is going to block that. Then the political juggernaut, then the scientists who don't want you to block what they're already doing because they already have the money to do those sciences. But you have the gray hair and the knowledge that God says you have to bring this and keep hammering about it, just like insulin, till people hear about it and save those who can't afford those big therapies. Before you know it, everybody will begin to understand the value of this therapy. And we are here to support you.
Thank you.
Okay? Please, by all means, you know, I really appreciate what you do, and I hope and pray that you don't give up. There's going to be 5 people talking about whatever. Those things are irrelevant now. The thing is to understand the value of this pathophysiologically proven therapy when it's applied very early. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Izugu.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Izugu. And Miss Lisa Nkuku, you have unmuted and now you unmute. Can you?
No.
Are you ready?
I am ready. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So sorry about that. I'm having a problem with my phone and I had to do it over and over.
Sorry.
And thank you so much, Dr. Soto. Good evening from Los Angeles as well. We love you.
Thank you.
We love you. We love you. So first, when I first heard about giving oxygen, the first thing that came to my mind as well was, oh my God, what if I intoxicate that patient by giving too much oxygen? And I had that same question as Dr. Hallelujah. But so what I wanted to say is that what Dr. Soto is saying, we can get what is called the oxygen oximeter, where we can help ourselves to quickly see if we're too much oxygen or we're not giving enough. So I thank you, and I just wanted to be that icebreaker between Dr. Aluya to let him know that, okay, if you believe it too, that oxygen, too much of oxygen is bad as well, there's a device that can help us to monitor if we have enough oxygen or not.
Actually, thank you for your comment. The pulse oximeter actually only goes up to 100%, so it's not going to show you whether there's too much oxygen. So there's no concept of too much oxygen, it doesn't exist. There was a 5-year study of giving nasal cannula. This is called low flow oxygen. 5 years in children, and there was no toxicity or side effects. So let's put that matter down. The issue here is a low oxygen environment being remedied by oxygen. It's like telling somebody with high blood pressure, oh, take your blood pressure medication so you can lower your blood pressure. Or someone with diabetes, take your insulin to lower your sugar. This oxygen to raise a low oxygen environment. There's no toxicity. I don't know how many times I need to mention that. And I will address a pulse oximeter. First of all, because I've had questions on patients who are in crisis in the hospital, and the doctor say, oh, your pulse oximeter saturation is reading 95%, so you cannot be in a crisis. Actually, the pulse oximeter only measures the arterial oxygen saturation. But sickling is occurring in the venocapillary circulation, which is not being measured by pulse oximetry. So I tell patients it does not matter what the pulse oximeter is reading. If they are in a crisis, they should put on the nasal cannula oxygen, 1.5 to 2 liters per minute. A pulse oximeter can show you if the patient is anemic because there's an increased pulse rate. Also, if the saturation is really low, it will show that to you. But if the saturation is normal, you cannot interpret that in terms of a crisis. Neither can you be using it to be looking for oxygen toxicity that's non-existent. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Sota. Assistant Kuku, pulse oximeter is not used to know how much oxygen you're getting or not. And Helen or Isiua, please, one of you should please post the WhatsApp group. Again, I've looked up and down, I didn't find it, and somebody is asking for it. Please kindly repost in the chat box. Thank you. Dr. Ajagbe said, low oxygen flow is not the same as hyperbaric oxygen treatment. And he's right. On the money. That is true. So I wanted to say that, this is a lot, and thank you so much for this presentation. But it is important to know that, like Dr. Aluya said, I think what he's trying to say also is that one size does not fit all. We in medicine, we're at an advantage when it comes to medicine that we've been trained to listen through history, examine, and figure out what is going on most of the time. We're not perfect, but most of the time. And we can make diagnosis, know the intervention most of the time. But when it comes to somebody who has not had that medical education, it is concerning. There's still more research that needs to be done, obviously. But I want to thank Dr. Sota for this intervention, this intervention, creation, knowledge. But at the same time, I wanted to mention some other things, like the oximeter that was presented during the presentation. I remembered I was so excited. It came out in 2020 during COVID, and I think it was late last year that Pfizer was really pushing it to, make sure that it now comes to the limelight because COVID has gone down some. I was really excited, even planned a meeting with doctors all over the US, the nation, AMPA, doctors to come hear about oxybrita and how we can change the status quo in sickle cell. And bingo, they pulled it off the market. So thank you, Dr. Sota, for shedding light into why it was pulled off, because it wasn't quite clear. Google told us that it was because of side effects, and I'm like, but they've been using it for 4 years. But FDA approved it. It went through the process. And so after 4 years, what side effects we didn't know. So dose was too high. Okay, that's one. So we have a cure, believe it or not. He said it also in his presentation, and it's gene therapy, but it's the last I checked, you said it was 2 point something million. It was 4 million. I thought it was. And how many people can afford $4 million to do this? Then it's also advised that if you're going to embark on that treatment, on that cure, as a female, go and store your eggs because it causes infertility. So we're not there yet. A lot still needs to be done when it comes to sickle cell. And I agree with Dr. Sota that more research needs to be done with the oxygen therapy in the first 30 minutes to see how, but every country has their protocol for this researches. And so more research needs to be done. More people need to, utilize it and then, tweak the dosing according to age or, disease process and see how it continues to work.
Yeah, thank you. I want to mention a couple of things. The dosing is already tweaked. We have pediatricians using oxygen on children. They tweak it based on the flow rate. It's as simple as that. 0.5 liters per minute for young children. Young children are on oxygen in the hospitals. So it's tweaked. There's nothing. It is not something that you are titrating to the exact cubic millimeter. One thing about gene therapy I want to mention is that gene therapy does not reverse existing damage. So even if somebody is going to have gene therapy, any existing damage like a vascular necrosis, acute chest, lung damage, kidney damage, the gene therapy is not going to bring it back. So it's only home oxygen that can stop a crisis and that can prevent all that damage. So even if you are one in a million that's going for gene therapy, get your home oxygen to prevent organ damage. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's a question in the chat box, and I really am not sure how Dr. Sota can step into this being, I don't know, but it's a question for you. Synonymous to early TNK application to stroke onset. Can patients in Nigeria form a support group through NGO to help those who can't afford oxygen therapy or who have centers where they can be rushed to since it's an emergency?
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, the whole concept of rushing them to centers defeats the whole purpose. The home oxygen has to be used within the first 30 minutes. So a center is not going to solve the issue. Now, in terms of charity, in terms of people donating, we are trying to partner with NGOs here in the United States with 501(c)(3) companies here, so people can donate and the monies can be used in Nigeria. And also right now with the Sickle Cell Discovery Platform, we do have foundations like the Dagomo Foundation where people are donating money to help to buy oxygen. And we bought oxygen for almost 20 to 30 people. I thank those donors, some of whom are on the platform, for what they have donated to these patients. But this is like a drop in the bucket. We don't have a government that is caring for these patients. And we're just talking about a crisis. On the platform, I get to see the severe sequela of sickle cell. avascular necrosis, infections, the implants coming out, patients bedridden, patients amputated. It's almost like a horror story. And that's why has to be a whole of society approach. I brought this discovery, but I need people who will come on this journey, help in raising funds, help in giving the oxygen to these people. The solution is here. Go on the platform and see the dramatic testimonies of people who have not had hospitalizations in 6 to 8 months, who used to be hospitalized every 2 months. The solution is here. So it's taken 7,300 years, but we're finally here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Akiton, this is very good comment to support home oxygen. She said it will be interesting to see the WHO stand on oxygen therapy for sickle cell patients. Have you reached out to them at all? Have you talked to them? What is their take on this?
Okay, so initially, at the time I announced my discovery, July 4, 2024, I only had 7 patients over my research period of 20 years.
Wow.
In Nigeria, in 1 year, we already have 100 patients who have purchased their own oxygen cylinders or concentrators. And we've seen, I tell you, a minimum of a 95% response for vaso-occlusive crisis, and even higher. So we needed to get that ongoing first, and then before we approach WHO, approach other people. But I alone cannot do this. So other people have to come on board and join to share this discovery to the whole world and work with other people. Now, unfortunately, due to Donald Trump, he's yanked all the funding from USAID. So the kind of funding that could have been available is not there now. So we have to depend on NGOs and hope that the government will respond. We do have a member of the National Assembly, Honorable Tolu Sadipe, on our platform. She was planning to get legislation to essentially obtain home oxygen for sickle cell patients, because the government is going to save a lot of money. It's going to save all the hospitalizations, all the complications, all the transfusions, all the vascular necrosis. So this is a win-win-win at all levels for everybody.
But Dr. Sota, in the US, the government will save a lot of money because this government in the US pump a lot of money into healthcare. In Nigeria, everyone is on their own. If you don't have your money, you will not be treated, period.
Correct.
So the government is not suffering there. Dr. Akintonde, as a follow-up, that just a thought that can we seek for grant with an oxygen company, maybe for few cylinders? There are many possibilities here. And, that's what she is suggesting.
Yes. Correct. There are many possibilities. You can seek for grant. This is like an open source. I brought the knowledge of this discovery, and everybody can take it and do their research, do their grants, do whatever they need. And I can tell you one thing. The first patient that you have that you put home oxygen, you are going to see the results almost immediately.
So before I even go on to, what I wanted to ask or comment on, I want to ask this. I think in one of the videos that you showed, it says that home oxygen in Nigeria is 100,000 naira. Which oxygen type is that? It's definitely not the concentrators, because you said that one is $500.
That's the small cylinder. And by the time you add the regulator and the controls and it comes to about about $150, 225,000 naira. That's a small cylinder. Okay. But most people will need a big cylinder. But the small cylinders, they need to be refilled more constantly. But sometimes that's all people can afford. Mm-hmm. Like you said, there's no government there. Everybody is on their own. In the United States, the U.S. government spent $811 million on sickle cell in 2016, hospitalizations and treatment of complications. So maybe somebody like RFK, who is more in tune with this kind of approach, may be amenable, but I don't have any contacts with him. Yeah, but that's why those who are here, if you can reach anybody, I'm happy to share this information. I'm happy to present this. And again, go and read the testimonies on the Discovery website.
Yeah. So Abimbola, she's not sleeping. She's in London. Kindly unmute.
Thank you, Dr. Ho, and thank you, Dr. Sota. This is really great, the little bit I can understand, because it's kind of too technical for me, but I'm very interested in this topic because I have a cousin who's, well, we do, my sister and I, we have a cousin whose son was born a sickle cell. The mother was born British, the boy was born in Nigeria, so she relocated back to Britain. The boy is now 21, but all through his formative years, it was in and out of hospital, having transfusions, and I don't know if it's blood transfusion, but was always in transfusion, in a lot of pain. And, would he still be able to benefit from this is basically what my question is. Thank you.
Absolutely. He will be able to benefit from this. It will stop the pain from the crisis, because modern medicine, all we've been doing is like a cat chasing the tail. We wait for the patients to get to a hospital in an irreversible crisis. The cells are destroyed because the body is trying to open up the blood vessels. Patients become severely anemic. It's transfusion upon transfusion upon transfusion. So the one caveat I have is this. Just like gene therapy does not reverse existing damage, home oxygen does not reverse existing damage. So if a patient already has a vascular necrosis, it's not going to reverse it, but we have a hematologist on the platform, Dr. Onogo, who's prescribed it to many of his patients, including university students who are using concentrators and oxygen cylinders. And he has found even people with a vascular necrosis, the pain of a vascular necrosis, ameliorated with oxygen. People were having pain score of 10 to pain score of 5, mainly because the oxygen is preventing any further damage. So it prevents further damage, but does not reverse existing damage. So definitely, he will benefit from home oxygen.
Thank you. Dr. Ajagbe, kindly unmute. You said Robert's Oxygen Company. Tell us about that. Is that somebody we need to contact to fund this, to do research?
Hello, everyone again. Yeah, when Dr. Akinton, they put their, seeking grants from Oxygen Company, that name just came to mind because I see them around all the time, and I see their trucks and see cylinders of oxygen. They supply hospitals, they supply many establishments that use oxygen. So I just thought I should put the name there in case Dr. Akintonde wants to pursue seeking grants.
And that's a good point. And I'm happy if Dr. Akintonde can pursue that. And one line he can tell these kind of companies that, look, if you finance this oxygen for a major prospective cohort study, and we already put a Google form there, and we can get oxygen to be the standard of care, then the financial reward comes to that gas company. And so, because these companies are not giving you grants free of charge, you have to present it something that they're going to be interested in it for their benefit down the line. So, and yes, the Gates Foundation. So this is just the beginning of the journey.
Yeah.
It's just the beginning of the journey.
So thank you, Sister Jennifer Olisa, who suggested the Gates Foundation. You know, it just occurred to me, why not approach NIH? We have a doctor here right now. I know she's not going to say anything. She's at NIH, and let's see. And you're right, a lot of funding has been cut. We don't know how that may impact these research institutions, but a place like NIH can actually roll this out in research where, you know, sickle cell patients can benefit from it while they're collecting data on how many crises, you know, how many crises they used to have, and now how many they're having or not having. It's a very simple process. So I think we should look at different places and see how this can be rolled out better and how more people can be helped. As far as Nigeria, you know, there are ways also to navigate that. But I think, like Dr. Alia said, there should be a control center where this is still an ongoing research to gather more data. Like you said in your presentation, I think there's a link for people to fill the form for prospective study. And again, sorry everyone on the platform who has been saying that the presentations were too technical. Prospective study means that study that is looking at people as they go along, not a retrospective one that is gathering data. Dr. Sota has done that. He has gathered data from 100 years that pointed him to, wait a minute, give them oxygen within the first 30 minutes of crisis of their pain, and you would abolish the pain, knock it off, and get a lot of benefit from it. They wouldn't have the pain, and you prevent hospitalization or pain medications and all of that. He has done that. So the prospective study is now getting people who have sickle cell, trying the oxygen, and then while data is being gathered. Am I
Yes.
right? Did I articulate that well?
Yes, you did. And actually, there's already been, there's already a case series that is being submitted for publication by about 5 of the physicians on the platform on the results of home oxygen. So that's just one set of one publication that is being submitted. So we welcome everybody to do their own studies, look for grants, and the doctor in the NIH, I'm happy to work with any of you. I'm happy to give you the information and whatever you need. This is, again, like I said, this is just the beginning of the journey. But one thing we know for sure.
It's working.
It's working.
There are testimonies.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, thank you so very much. This has been very educational, and thank you for your boldness. And I have to say this because I'm a very good listener, and I love to communicate. I love to listen, and I love to share information. I heard through Dr. Aluya that you are not doing this for money. So everybody on the platform needs to know this. This is not a sales pitch. This is not a way to enrich somebody's pocket. It discovered the use of oxygen in saving life, saving, lost hours, weeks from work or from school, giving quality of life, and he wants to share. and he wants it to go far and wide, and he wants to stop this pain of sickle cell, is what this is all about. And I hear you also saying, you want to do your research, I will be there. It's not enriching his pocket. So this is for the good of our people. Am I right? Did I
Yeah,
articulate that?
actually, thank you, Dr. O. Not only am I not enriching my pocket, I'm actually spending my own money to buy oxygen for people. So, but thank you.
I heard that too. I heard it. Dr. Izugu, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, my brother. Again, your presentation, really cut across a lot of things for me. And I want to, on with HDPTC, I don't know if you know about us, that we'll work with you. We're a nonprofit and we have sites in different places, not only in Nigeria, but other African places. So we can work with you to see how we can do with this sickle cell and oxygen tanks. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
I'll connect both of you. HDPTC
Appreciate
is
that.
the Heart Disease Prevention and Teaching Center, and has sites in Enugu, Enuguku, and Lagos. And Dr. Izugu is the convener. I'm on his board, so that's why I know so much about it. So, Sister Wumi Kamsin, and I want to thank you. Thank you for raising your hand because she introduced me to Dr. Sota. The reason Dr. Sota is here tonight is this woman. I have a lot of respect for her. She's my sis in California.
Thank you so much, Dr. O. You are amazing. Tayo was listening in. Tayo says, "Wow, she's so good." I'm like, "Yeah, she's the big kahuna in the community." So thank you for listening to me. I called you and you listened and you made it happen. So I truly appreciate you. Thank you, Dr. Soda, for the presentation. Amazing, amazing, awesome. The one thing I do want to talk about, I don't know if I missed it during the presentation, is that what I'm finding out, because I'm part of that the group chat, the WhatsApp group chat that Dr. Soda mentioned, I joined it just to listen in and hear testimony. He is right. It's really, really heartbreaking. It's amazing. I guess maybe I was naive. I did not know how many people were impacted by sickle cell in Nigeria. It's really an eye opener. It's crazy. Um, as you know, I have a son. I mean, I have a vested interest in this, and that's why this is passionate for me. The one thing that I also learned and noticed, and I have firsthand information on that too, is that the labs in Nigeria they give wrong information and wrong diagnosis. Dr. Soda, I don't know if you want to talk about that. Because when we're talking about prevention, Nigerian laboratories are part of the problem.
Yes, you are correct, Ms. Kamsen, and you are right. You reached out to me and then reached out to Dr. O. Yeah, so one thing that has been mentioned in the platform is, which is really concerning, is the number of people who have had fake genotype results. They are told they are AA when they are AS, and they go ahead and get married and only to have a child with SS. Over and over and over, we are hearing this report on the platform. So the question is that the labs, so we all talk about prevention, but prevention requires the correct lab results. How can you prevent something when you are being given a fake result? So how do you hold the labs accountable? And Ms. Kamsin, just like I said on the platform, our leaders are not even held accountable for the corruption in the system. So who is going to hold these labs responsible? So we just have to change the whole morality of that country. So that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy that you cannot depend on a lab result in Nigeria now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sister Jennifer just wrote, it's extremely common and it happened to her and her husband. We actually have somebody on the platform right now who has experienced what you've said. Um, we need to change the status quo. We need to. Oh, Dr. Alu said it happened to him and his wife, but they were fortunate that it turned out good. So they probably have AA children. I have a cousin too who, they didn't know. They both AS, but the two children they have are AA. Thank God for that. But Dr. Sota, Sister Umi, how do we stop this? It starts from you and I. It's now.
That's true. That's
We,
true.
we don't keep quiet
That's true.
and we look for people here who are maybe directors of labs who are in the lab who can assist in training our folks in Nigeria. As simple as that.
Yeah.
But there's a caveat there. If they're willing to accept it, because there is arrogance. I deal with a lot of people and I always pray for wisdom, temperance. There is arrogancy sometimes when you're trying to share knowledge. And people say, do you know who I am? It's happened to me several times. Do you know who you're talking to? I'm Dr. So. If we can cross that hurdle and be patient and get people here to help, to assist. Maybe it's solutions that have expired, that are being used. Maybe, I don't know. We have to look into that, but it starts with us. It's a good thing to identify the problem first, and then we would navigate how to go on. Sister Wumi, you know me. I'm
Yeah.
not going back
Oh, yeah.
down and
Oh, yeah.
sit since,
Yeah.
I never thought of it. Sister Jennifer said she thinks it's also the technology.
Oh, yeah. That's
But
part of it. Yeah.
this equipment not available. That's what I'm trying to say, that maybe
Mhm.
it's solutions that have expired. Yeah, maybe electrophoresis equipment that is not adequate, and see how one can help to furnish that. But that needs to change because this is very important. My president, Prince Maduka, kindly unmute. That's our NAPAC president.
Dr. O, thank you so much for making this possible. And Dr. Sota, as I spoke with Dr. Sota a number of times on this subject, and I'm happy that today finally came and that you have done the presentation. And I'm very, very happy because I personally learned a lot. I also come from a family that is plagued with this condition. And one thing that I did learn today that I never knew was about flying. The consequences of flying can have on people with this condition. So, and that goes to the need for public service, public enlightenment. A lot of enlightenment is required along the actual treatment or for people who marry, who shouldn't be marrying each other, or who should do certain things before they marry each other because of incompatibility of this disease that they might have. So, but I speak here tonight as a community, as a member of the leadership of a community organization that would seek to support Dr. Sota's efforts here. Because when he called me in the capacity for us to mobilize to provide some of these devices back home in Nigeria. And I want to say that we're going to continue to move in that direction to see how we can support in the short term while the big funds are being secured. So, Dr. Sota, I'm so happy that this has gone down, and I hope that you will become a permanent fixture in this community of ours, Medical Mondays. And Dr. Okwesomi, I really appreciate you for making this possible. This is Kamsin. I know what you and I talked about, and I'm happy that this has happened. Thank you so much, Dr. O.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is very much needed. I'm laughing because, when you talk about sickle cell, I've heard this all the time, that not enough is devoted to it, nobody cares and all that. But one of our very own took it upon himself to go back 100 years. I'm just excited. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Dr. Sota. So, Dr. Sota, what will be your parting words for us?
My parting words for everybody is now that we have a solution, the movement has just begun. So join the movement. This is a condition that has ravaged Africa, ravaged the whole world for 7,300 years, where even the biggest farmer, the best researchers, they couldn't come to a solution. Again, because like I said, they were looking for a medication when the solution was right there in all the literature. It's just as plain and simple oxygen gas by nasal cannula. So please join the movement. Let's stop the pain and suffering. And let's raise funds to save our people back home, because there's a lot of suffering. It's just unbelievable, from the disease, from the pain, from the complications. So I'm very happy. Thank you, Dr. O, for giving me this opportunity to present, and for everybody to join this movement. And if you want to join the movement, the easiest thing is join the WhatsApp platform. And there you share information and we can coordinate what we need to do. So thank you, Dr. O. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sota. Thank you. This is amazing. I want you to keep an eye out. Prince Maduka is right. You are now part of Medical Mondays, and you should join NAPAC also. You must, you have to. Dr. Prince Maduka, don't get back on him and let me know if he doesn't join right away.
He's my neighbor.
Yeah,
He's my neighbor. Manually, I can see him physically. Don't worry.
Thank you. You need to join now. I'm very serious, because you know what? When we're talking about medicine, also putting, being, making sure that our people are in office and are able to effect things that will help us is very important. Even in this instance, if we have somebody in the position that can help to, let research happen on this, wouldn't it be fantastic? So that is why that is good. But the reason I said, Dr. Sota, you have to keep an eye out, because you've talked about that critical 30 minutes. Somebody is beginning to have a crisis. They already know, and they slam their oxygen on, because that can happen anytime during the day. So what about before then? How should they maintain life before then? We're going to postpone, and we have to come back to address that. So
Okay.
you see what I'm saying? That's another subject. Don't even start. Don't start. That's when we will bring Dr. Mary Olodun, who has some research, because it doesn't have to do with that first 30 minutes. That has to do with living generally, and how to, keep hydrated, keep well, and all of that. It's like somebody having asthma, and they have severe asthma that we put on daily medications. We still give them that albuterol, so that if they have breakthrough, they can abort it and it doesn't become a crisis and it doesn't kill, because you don't know the episode of asthma that will kill. Same principle here, where what are the daily maintenance for somebody with sickle cell, because oxygen is that albuterol that
Yeah.
we.
And Dr. O,
But
I'll just read you just briefly one testimony. It just says, my son is a warrior. He's 18 years old. We're opportune to purchase the machine. He got it fixed through a video call with Dr. Sota like 10 days ago. He started feeling apprehensions, signs of his crisis, restlessness. The onset of pain has just started gradually. Yesterday, quickly he grabs and fixes the oxygen machine, He just used it for about 2 hours and slept off. This morning, I was shocked to see him back on his feet. I asked him how was he feeling. He smiled and said, I guess this machine is unbelievable. It's a miracle. Dr. Sota, we can't thank you enough. You are just priceless. My family and I will always be indebted to you. Just one. And there are many, many more.
Fantastic. No, let me tell you, I have two amazing ladies here who have been posting testimonies. I'm trying to keep up. They're beating me hands down, but I can't keep up with every single one of them, every single word. But they've been posting testimonies. They've done a great job. Thank you so much, Helen. And now, my attorney. Isiwa. Thank you. You guys have been amazing. I appreciate both of you. You made this very simple for me on the platform. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dr. O. We appreciate you. Thank you for hosting this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ho, for this presentation. And Dr. Sota, thank you so much.